I always thought I was playing life by the book, work hard, save consistently. And don't expect handouts, that's what responsible adults do, right? Or at least that's what I believed during the last decade while grinding away 60-hour weeks at my marketing firm. My name is Florence Jack. I'm 35, single, and just 2 weeks ago I became a homeowner for the first time after my great-aunt Ruth passed. She left me a small inheritance. Not life-changing, but enough to give my savings the boost it needed. Since I was 25, I'd been budgeting to the bone. Living in a cramped shared apartment. Sacramento, skipping vacations, brewing my own coffee and saying no to nights out while others splurged on Coachella or designer handbags. I was quietly building my down payment when I hit my goal, $300,000. 0 cents. I bought a charming little 2-bedroom bungalow outright in a quiet neighborhood near East Sacramento that's starting to bloom again. No mortgage, no debt, just mine. It's got creaky floors, outdated cabinets, and hideous 1980s wallpaper, but I love it. I even started doing the renovations myself. YouTube is my new best friend. I was mid-scrape, peeling sunflower borders off the living room wall when my phone rang. It was my mom. Florence, honey, come over next Saturday. We're having a family meeting, she said with that too sweet tone she uses when she's being sneaky. A family meeting? What for? I asked, pausing mid-peel. Oh, it's a surprise, she said breezily. Be here by 4:00 and bring that chocolate cake from Sweet Juniper near your place. Mom, what is this about? I pressed. Just a gathering. Your brother Harry and his fiancée be there, plus your aunts and cousins that set off alarm bells. It's a surprise, Florence. Just be here, she said, and hung up. I rolled my eyes and went back to the wallpaper. Whatever it was, it could wait. I had a home to rebuild. Unlike me, my brother Harry has always had things handed to him. He was the varsity athlete in high school while I was in the science club. He dropped out of college to pursue creative freedom, while I powered through 4 years of night classes to earn my marketing degree while working full-time, and somehow our parents never seemed to mind. It was always Harry this and Harry that when we were kids, and both had events on the same weekend. Guess which one they showed up to? When Harry graduated high school, they threw a backyard bash with a DJ. My college graduation, a quiet dinner at a strip mall diner. I still remember my 16th birthday. I got a second-hand mountain bike. Harry got a used Jeep the following year. When I questioned it, Mom said, well, Harry needs it to get to his band rehearsals, as if my internships and weekend tutoring gigs weren't as valuable. But I've never been one to complain. I just put my head down and worked harder. That week flew by as I kept fixing up the bungalow. By Saturday, I'd finished scraping wallpaper and primed the living room. Seeing those fresh white walls made every blister feel worth it. That morning, I stopped by Sweet Juniper and picked up Mom's favorite chocolate cake with buttercream frosting. As I pulled into the driveway of the old family house, I noticed the driveway and curb were packed. Uncle Ray's old Subaru, Aunt Lisa's hybrid, even my cousin Mariah's bright yellow Beetle was there. This wasn't just a gathering, this was something big. I took a deep breath, grabbed the cake and headed inside. Florence is here, Mom called out, swooping in to grab the cake. Perfect timing. We're just about to sit down. I scanned the room. Harry and his fiancée Emily sat side by side on the couch, all smiles. Dad chatted with Uncle Ray. The others were drifting toward the dining room. What's going on? I asked Kyle quietly. He grinned. You'll see. That didn't help. The knot forming in my stomach, Mom had set the table with the good china. Thanksgiving level serious, whatever was coming, it wasn't casual, as it was clearly something big. I took my seat beside my cousin Mariah, who looked just as puzzled as I felt. Do you know what this is about? I whispered. She shook her head. No clue. Your mom just said it was important family news. Dinner was passed around, roast chicken, scalloped potatoes, roasted carrots, and the cake I'd brought was placed at the center. Like a crown jewel for dessert. The mood was polite, conversations light, but there was a tightness behind every smile. Everyone was waiting for something. Finally, once the plates were full, my mom stood and tapped her glass with a spoon. I want to thank you all for coming today, she said, beaming wide. We have some exciting news. She looked directly at Harry and Emily are expecting. The table erupted into claps and cheers. Emily blushed and Harry puffed up proudly, his hand resting on her back. And they're getting married, Mom added. We're already discussing venues. I smiled and applauded, honestly happy for them, despite everything. But then Mom shot a glance at Dad and then at Harry and Emily before her eyes landed on me. Something in her expression made my stomach twist. That's not the only news, she said. The room fell quiet. As many of you know, Florence recently bought her own home. She gestured toward me. A few cousins nodded and mumbled belated congrats. She's 35, still single, no kids, no partner. My cheeks burned. What did that have to do with anything? But Harry and Emily, she continued, are about to start a family. They need a real home. I froze. Florence, she said, voice sweet but firm, this is your opportunity to be generous, show your love for your brother. You should give your house to them. Silence. I blinked, waiting for the joke. It never came. You can go back to renting, Mom said breezily. You don't need all that space, do you? If you think that was bold, wait until you hear what I said next. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss how this family meeting turned into something no one expected. I looked around the table. Dad nodded solemnly beside Mom. Harry finally met my gaze. His eyes held an awkward blend of guilt and entitlement. That's such a thoughtful idea, Aunt Lisa said brightly. Family should look out for each other. A murmur of agreement followed from around the table. This wasn't a suggestion, it was an ambush. You can't be serious, I said, my voice low and sharp. Of course we are, Mom replied, the warmth gone from her tone. Harry and Emily need a home. You have one and no family of your own. I stood, my chair screeching against the hardwood. You want me to give them my house, the one I worked a decade to afford, that I paid for with inheritance and sacrifice? Don't be selfish. Snapped. Think about your brother for once. Selfish, I laughed bitterly. I've worked my entire adult life for that home. I didn't get help, I didn't get handouts, I earned it. But Harry, Mom started. No, I said louder now. Absolutely not. Emily put her hand on her belly dramatically, barely a bump, and started sniffling. Harry gave me glare like I just stomped on their wedding cake. How could you be so cold? Mom demanded. Your own brother, how can you ask me to throw away everything I built? I snapped. Why doesn't Harry earn like I did? Whispers rippled around the table. Ungrateful, so difficult. You've always been like this, Mom hissed. Thinking only of yourself. I'm not giving up my house, I said, each word steady. That's final. And then it happened. Mom lunged for the cake, the one I bought, and threw it at me. It hit dead on. Chocolate and buttercream splattered across my face, down my shirt and onto the floor. The room froze. No one rushed to help. There's Colby. They looked satisfied. I wiped my eyes, grabbed my bag and Walked out, behind me the shouts began to rise. Ungrateful. Selfish cow, you're no daughter of mine. I got into my car, my hands trembling so badly I could barely fit the key into the ignition. Somehow I made it home, still covered in smears of chocolate, frosting that had dried into my skin. Like some humiliating badge, I collapsed onto my thrifted couch, the same one I'd dragged from my old apartment, and just sat there trying to absorb the emotional wreckage of the evening. My phone buzzed. Non-stop, message after message, missed calls from Mom, from Dad, from Harry. You're overreacting, just give them the house. You've always been so selfish. Your pregnant brother needs help and you turn your back. I silenced the phone and tossed it across the room. All my life I'd been second place to Harry. When we were kids, he got Nike shoes, I got clearance bin sneakers. He went to basketball camp, I stayed home and read. When he turned 16, they hired a food truck and set up party lights for me. Sheet cake in the kitchen with plastic forks, and now they expected me to just hand over the only thing I'd ever truly built for myself. So I thought about the house, our grandmother's house, the one she left to Harry and me equally in her will. We let our parents stay there out of kindness, never asked for rent, never made demands, but legally we each owned half. That night I dug out the manila folder from my filing cabinet. Inside was Grandma's will, as clear as ever. 50-50. Ownership between me and Harry. They were guests in a home they didn't own, and that's when I knew. The next morning I was halfway through dialing a real estate lawyer when my phone pinged. The Facebook notification. I opened it and froze. My mom had posted publicly, "Sometimes your own child breaks your heart. Florence refused to help her pregnant brother when he needed her most." The comments even worse. I was there. Florence was ice cold. "Some people just don't understand family. Epping a whole house for herself. Disgusting." I nearly dropped the phone. But instead of crying, I started to smile, because if they wanted to play dirty, they clearly forgot I still owned half their roof. Not a single person mentioned the part where my mother hurled a cake at my face. No one questioned why I was expected to give up the apartment I worked years to afford. As I scrolled through the Facebook comments, each one landed like a punch to the gut, and the worst part, my mom was liking them, even replying with things like, "We raised her better than this." It wasn't just a post, it was a smear campaign. That's when something inside me snapped. Whatever loyalty I had left broke. I picked up my phone and searched for a real estate attorney near East Sacramento. The first name that popped up: Blackwell Law Office. Blackwell Law. "This is Jenna," a receptionist answered. "I need to speak to someone about property rights," I said, my voice steady, focused. 2 hours later I sat across from Jeremy Blackwell, a composed man with keen eyes and a quiet intensity. I laid it all out: the will, the apartment, the attack, the Facebook humiliation. "So just to be clear," he said, tapping his pen, "you and your brother inherited your grandmother's home 50-50. You let your parents live there rent-free. And now, after they tried to force you to hand over your own home, you want to know your legal options." "Yes," I replied. "I'm not looking for revenge, just clarity, boundaries." He reviewed the will. "It's simple. You own half. You can force a sale or require your brother to buy you out at market values. Your parents have no legal standing. What's the first step?" "I'll draft the notice today." "Do it," I said. I threw myself into my renovations, painted, trim, tore out the carpet. The physical work helped silence the noise. 5 days later my doorbell rang through the peephole. Mom, Dad, Harry, Emily, I didn't open it. Florence, we know you're in there, Mom. Barked, we need to talk about this. Ridiculous letter, Dad's voice thundered. Behind hers, you have no right, I hit. Record on my phone, you ungrateful brat. Mom screamed, after all we've done for you, and still I didn't open the door. You're trying to make you're pregnant. Brother homeless, Emily shouted through the door, this is low even for you, Harry. Added sharply, I recorded every insult. Every guilt trip, every threat they hurled for nearly 15 minutes, then. Snorts finally silence, I sent the audio to Jeremy, he called immediately. This qualifies as harassment, he said. We can request a restraining order if it continues, but honestly this only strengthens your position. A week later, he called again, their lawyer reached out, they want to mediate. The mediation was scheduled for Monday at Jeremy's office. I arrived early wearing a navy pantsuit I used to save for major presentations. Jeremy met me with a calm nod. You're within your rights, don't let them rattle you. My parents, Harry and Emily, arrived with their lawyer. Mom glanced at me and muttered, traitor. The mediator began summarizing the facts. Their lawyer claimed that forcing a sale would be cruel and disruptive. Jeremy calmly submitted the Facebook post and the harassment recording as evidence. 2 hours passed, then both lawyers returned with a proposal: sell the house, split proceeds equally between Harry and me as the will dictated. Mom broke down. Please, Florence, she begged. We're your family, I'm sorry about the cake. I lost my temper. I looked at her, remembering every slight, every overlooked moment. The house will be sold, I said. That's final. Jeremy began drafting the agreement. Their anger pressed in like heat, but I felt nothing. 2 months passed in a blur of legal work and showings. The house sold fast in a hot market. After fees, Harry and I each received $175,000. We never spoke again. Everything went through the lawyers. Jeremy later told me my parents were furious but completely powerless. They'd been living rent-free. That era was over. What will they do now? I asked Jeremy during our final meeting. Your brother used his share as a down payment, he replied. Your parents will be moving in with him. And Emily. They secured a mortgage for the rest. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of guilt and relief. I had in effect forced my parents out of their home, but then I remembered that cake, the door screaming, the Facebook post. They made their choices, I said. And you? Jeremy asked. Plans for your share investment portfolio, I said. I'd started working with a financial advisor to build a mix of stocks, bonds, and REITs. Smart, he said. Well, unless there's more, our business is wrapped. I shook his hand. Thanks for helping me stand my ground. Back at my apartment, I looked around. Hardwood floors gleamed, new kitchen clean, paint light everywhere. My phone rang. It was my coworker, Rachel. Florence, how are you holding up? I am okay, actually. The sale's final, money's in my account. And your family? Little messy. I wasn't invited to Harry's wedding. He and Emily are expecting. Rachel hesitated. Are you okay not meeting your nephew, able to grow up thinking I'm the villain? I said, and honestly, maybe they never saw me as family, just convenient. I knew it would never happen. My parents had spent their lives putting Harry first. They weren't about to develop self-awareness in their 60s. After hanging up, I poured a glass of wine and stepped onto my small balcony. The Sacramento sky was streaked in warm orange and fading pink. 6 months ago, the idea of being estranged from my entire family would have crushed me. Now I felt peace. My phone pinged, text from a mutual Friend Emily had the baby, 7LB60. Everyone's healthy, I stared at it. Waiting for emotion, grief, anger. Regret, nothing came, just quiet. Recognition, like hearing about a stranger's milestone, they were all under one roof now, Harry, Emily, this baby, and my parents living in a house funded by Harry's half of grandma's legacy, carrying a mortgage they'd likely pay into retirement, but I didn't feel bad for them. They'd made it clear I was never the daughter, sister, or aunt. I was the resource, the purse. Back inside my apartment greeted me calm silence. Some would call it lonely. I called it freedom. On my bookshelf sat one box of photos, just grandma and me. She saw us equally. She tried to balance the scales, and I was finally done burning for others. If you've ever been expected to give everything and ask for nothing, tell me in the comments. I stood up for myself finally. Subscribe if you believe setting boundaries isn't selfish. Let's support each other, share our stories, and remind the world that quiet strength deserves just as much respect.